Ilara approached a still, silver pond hidden deep within the ancient forest. Its surface was so clear, it looked like glass, and when she gazed in, her reflection blinked. Then it spoke. Her breath caught. The voice was hers, but laced with fear, with doubt she had buried for years. Ilara's hands trembled, but she didn't look away. "Maybe I am afraid," she said softly, "but I choose kindness. And that is my truth." Suddenly, the reflection shattered like glass, rippling outward in brilliant light. The pond sang with wind, and for the first time, Ilara felt the storm inside her turn into song. In the grand kingdom of Velmara, where crystal rivers ran beneath bridges of gold and the skies were always painted in the soft blush of sunrise, lived Prince Kian, the second son of King Alaric and Queen Lyra. While his elder brother trained with swords and memorized laws, Kian spent his days wandering the palace gardens, listening to wind chimes and talking to birds. He was curious, kind-hearted, and often found lost in books that told stories of distant lands and hidden places. But it wasn't until one stormy afternoon that Kian's real story began. While sheltering in the royal library from the rain, Kian stumbled upon an old, dust-covered book, thicker than any he had ever seen. As he flipped through its pages, a worn map fell into his lap. The ink was faded, the language ancient. But at the bottom, one line still shimmered clearly. "To the kingdom forgotten, where time stands still and light dares not dwell." He showed the map to the court scholars, but none recognized the place. "Fairy tales," they said. "Children's nonsense." But something deep within him stirred. A whisper, perhaps, or a calling. That night, while the palace slept, Kian stood beneath the stars, staring at the path marked on the map. He didn't know what lay ahead, only that the unknown was calling louder than ever before. And so, with little more than a satchel of supplies, his father's compass, and the courage blooming in his chest, Prince Kian slipped away before dawn. Not to conquer, not to fight, but to find a kingdom the world had forgotten. Prince Kian's journey led him far beyond the borders of Velmara. The cobbled roads of home gave way to dirt paths, then to wild meadows, and finally to endless dunes of golden sand. His royal boots wore thin. His silk cloak grew dusty and torn. Yet Kian pressed on, not because he knew where he was going, but because he believed the map was guiding him somewhere meant to be found. 4 days, the sun blazed overhead, and water became precious. He shared bread with strangers in desert towns and listened to stories from caravanners who spoke of a land where time forgot to move. But most called it legend. By morning, the man was gone. Only footprints in the sand and a fresh sprig of lavender beside Kian's sleeping roll. He didn't understand it yet, but he would. The real journey had only just begun. Following the path etched on the ancient map, Prince Kian journeyed beyond the desert and into lands cloaked in mist. The air grew colder, quieter, as if nature itself was holding its breath. Finally, after days of wandering through valleys and fog-draped woodlands, he found it, a massive stone archway standing alone in a field of silver grass. There were no walls, no guards. Just the arch, tall, ancient, covered in ivy, and an inscription barely visible at its base. "Only those who carry no crown in their heart may pass." Kian stepped forward. Nothing happened. Confused, he walked through the arch. A gust of wind threw him backward. He tried again, slower. Still nothing. And then he sat down, frustrated, angry, tired. Only then did he recall the old man's words. Some doors open only when you stop trying to push them. So he closed his eyes. He took off his royal brooch. He let go of titles, goals, expectations, just for a moment. He breathed. When he opened his eyes, the archway shimmered, and beyond it, the mist parted, revealing a world unlike anything he'd ever seen. He stepped through, slowly, reverently. The hidden kingdom was quiet, frozen in time, not in ice, but in stillness. Villagers walked like shadows, their eyes distant. The skies were dim, as if trapped in an endless sunset. The air held no birdsong, no wind. And at the center of the square stood a woman dressed in gray, motionless, her crown tarnished, her face calm yet lost. "She's the queen," said a soft voice behind him. but she has forgotten why she ruled. Kian turned. A child stood there, barefoot, smiling gently. Maybe you're here to help her remember. Kian didn't speak. He just nodded. Somehow, he knew this was no longer about adventure. It was about healing. The queen stood motionless beneath the ancient tree in the center of the village. Her eyes did not blink. Her lips did not part. She was alive, but distant, as though locked in a dream she could not wake from. Prince Kian approached quietly. The villagers, like shadows, watched from behind doorways and windows, their silence filled with centuries of waiting. He looked into the queen's eyes. And then, he heard something, faint, like a lullaby lost in the wind. She forgot joy, whispered the barefoot child beside him. And when a ruler forgets joy, her people forget how to feel. Kian reached into his satchel and pulled out the sprig of lavender the old man had left him. Gently, he placed it at the queen's feet. Then he knelt. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "you don't have to remember everything. Just one feeling, one laugh, one moment when your heart was light." Nothing happened. Then, a breeze. The lavender stirred. A single leaf fell from the tree above, and the queen blinked. She looked at Kian, confused, and suddenly afraid. "Who am I?" she asked, her voice trembling like a new bird's wings. "You're someone who once believed in light," Kian said. "And I believe you still can." The queen fell to her knees, clutching the flower. Tears streamed down her face, silent, silver, real. As if her sorrow was the key, light spread from the center of the village outward. Color returned. Birds sang. The villagers emerged, not as shadows now, but people, smiling, crying, laughing. The queen rose slowly. "You woke us," she whispered. "Not with power, but with kindness." Kian stood quietly, overwhelmed. He hadn't fought a beast. He hadn't cast a spell. He had listened. And sometimes, that is enough to save a world. The hidden kingdom, once bathed in endless twilight, now shimmered under morning light. The curse had not been broken by might or magic, but by the quiet courage of a boy who listened, felt, and believed in something more than glory. The queen, now free from her fog, walked beside Kian as the villagers sang songs long forgotten. She touched his shoulder gently. "You reminded us who we were, Prince. You reminded me who I was. For that, we owe you not just our voices, but our hearts." Kian smiled, humbly. "I didn't come to change you," he said. "I just came to learn." He returned home weeks later, not with riches, but with stories. Stories of a land that healed through kindness. Of a queen who wept lavender tears. Of silence that held more wisdom than sound. And Velmara listened. From that day on, Prince Kian became known not as the warrior prince, nor the clever one, but the prince of the quiet path. The one who taught a kingdom that to lead is to listen. And that even forgotten places still dream of being remembered. Sometimes, the most powerful voice in the room is the one that pauses to hear another. If this story moved you, share it like wind shares song. Subscribe, like, and follow us for more tales that speak not just to the ears, but to the heart.